Hello everyone, and here we are on the penultimate unit of vocabulary. Penultimate meaning second to last. So unit 24 is our focus for today's lesson, and hopefully you can cut and paste what you need to cut and paste in order to move this along. We have our first 6 words here. One of the 6 is a literary composition dealing formally with a subject. For example, you might say, I have to study this treatise on how to understand that this is not the best of all possible worlds. So a treatise is a literary composition dealing with or dealing formally with a subject. Some of the other words on this group of 6 are very easy. Transparent, we know that is easy to see through, or obvious. His reasons were so transparent, they were very clear, they were easily understood. And transport, I think, is another one that everybody knows, which is to move or to take from one place to another. Everline's boyfriend wants to transport her from Dublin, Ireland to Buenos Aires. Frank, right? She will have another life with him. 2 of the characters in The Tempest get very distracted by the trappings of frippery. Trappings are ornamental accessories, and I'm sure that you're recognizing that those 2 characters are Trinculo and Stefano. The trappings of those pieces of clothing distract them from the murder plot of Prospero. And so we have travail and traverse. Travail can be a verb, which means to work hard, or it could be a noun, which means toil. So we had to travail over many hours in order to dig out the railroad from the snow, as the boys do in a separate piece. Or we could say that Ferdinand's travails, his toil, are worth it for him because he knows he's going to get Miranda in the long run. And if you have to traverse from one area to another, you have to travel across it. To traverse is to travel across, as Candide must traverse all of Europe trying to reunite with Cunegonde, and even the New World too, as he makes his way over to El Dorado. You can also use traverse to discuss the whole extent of something as well. Okay, so here we have our next bunch, and 2 of them actually are exactly the same, so I can use them interchangeably. If we talk about a minor detail or a trivial detail or something that is trifling, we are saying that it's insignificant. Some of us may think that it's somewhat trifling for Nora to be forbidden to eat macaroons. It seems very trivial, something of small value. That's what a trifle is anyway, something that is of small value. And yet, it helps us to understand the kind of character Torvald Helmer is. On this list is also a word that means shaking or quivering. A lot of times we hear it in terms of an earthquake, and that would be a tremor. Someone's hands could have tremors. That is a shaking or a quivering. If there is an uproar or a riot, we could say there's much tumult. A riot or an uproar or things that are upside down and chaotic. To say that we're going to honor someone is to say that we're going to give tribute to them. So it is to pay homage, you might say, to honor, to pay tribute. So tribute is a thing done or said or even given as a mark of respect. Oops. shoot, I don't know how that happened. As a mark of respect or affection, something like that. And trenchant is a great word if you are a very trenchant observer. That means you're very keen, very sharp. If your writing is trenchant, it cannot be questioned. Unassailable means he basically had an unblemished record. And again, sticking with the doll's house, there is one point in the play when Torvald says that turpitude or wickedness is passed on from the parents to their children, as that moral cripple Krogstad was probably going to pass on his turpitude to his children. Baseness, evil, a lack of morals. And Torvald especially, says the mother is in that category, which makes Nora never want to be around her children any longer. Okay, so here we go, the next bunch. Let's start with a word that means applicable to all cases. And that word, of course, would be universal. We can go back in time to our study of myth and folktale and know that archetypes, I should say applicable to all cases. Archetypes are universal. If you think about it, you can be in any culture, whether you're Greek or Roman or Quiche Mayan in America, in Latin America, Central America. You can be in the Sumerian culture or the Hebrew tradition. There's always going to be usually a story about a flood, or the idea of a hero and a quest. These archetypes are applicable to all cases. They are universal. If you say that something was an unmitigated disaster, you're saying it was an absolute disaster. It cannot be modified. It cannot be changed. Mitigate, of course, meaning to lessen, but unmitigated means absolute. When we talk about the sacrament of extreme unction, we know that that involves oil. And when someone is unctuous, I mean, you could say that that person is being oily, but that doesn't necessarily help you out very much. It's usually to denote a person who is fake. They are using flattery to get what they want, but they're very insincere about it. Think of Mephistopheles with Faust. He's excessively flattering to Faust. He's sycophantic. He says, "Oh, come on, I'll be your pal, I'll be your buddy." But at least Faust is wise enough or cynical enough to realize that the devil doesn't do anything gratis. He doesn't do anything for free. But you could say at that point that Mephistopheles was being unctuous, kind of brown-nosing, if you will. In the story The Ring, you might remember that there is one point in the tale where Lovisa calls her husband clumsy, awkward, boorish. We could substitute that with the word uncouth. And if you go back to The Tempest for a moment and you think about Antonio, who winds up very slowly but surely winning over all of the people in Milan who were once followers of Prospero, you could say that he undermined Prospero's authority. So this is to wear away the base of something. And usually you do this wearing away in secret, or you do it insidiously. It's not a positive thing to undermine someone. And then unbridled, if you say that Nora is filled with unbridled joy, you're saying that she has unrestrained happiness. Indeed, at one point, I think it's Dr. Rank who says that she should be the spirit of happiness next year at the next masquerade ball, when he will actually come as invisible, and we all know why he's saying that, right? Mitigate, of course, meaning to lessen. And our last two are unruly and warrant. I'm not talking about the noun form of warrant, but the verb form of warrant. Gonzalo actually says, "I warrant him from drowning." He's saying that I am going to guarantee or declare that this man is worthy of drowning. He does not look as if he's going to be hanged. I'm not sure if you remember what character he's referring to, but of course it's the boatswain. To guarantee, to justify, to declare. Sorry for the mess there. And then lastly, if a little child is being unruly, they are being, you could actually say turbulent, as a matter of fact. They cannot be controlled. They're not amenable to discipline. Think of them as wild banshees, for example. Okay, and that's Unit 24.